Islam, 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 and welcome to Moorish Heritage and History School, Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anna-Ida L., along with my co-host, Ms. Raheem Aleph L.
Peace and love, family. Peace and love, Moors, everybody listening. Anna-Ida, everybody. Right.
All right. And Rasmariah Bey.
Islam, peace, and love to all.
Oh.
And on a sad note, we will not have Cujo on this broadcast. There was a death in his family, and, what we'd like to do at this time before we even get into the show is to take a minute of silence and just send some good energy Cujo's way. So we're just going to take a moment, just 1 minute of silence. All right. I trust at least, we can send him some energy to help him through whatever Cujo and his family is going through right now. So with that, we don't know who in the family passed, but we're trusting that.
It was cousin, he said. That it was like
cousin
or something. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
Well, we're trusting that, with everything happens for a reason, and no, there are no mistakes. And I can say from my own experience, to hear that does not lessen the feeling of loss at all. But over time, we do gain some comprehension. So I trust that that'll happen. All right. With that, let's move on with our show. And want to just let everybody know that the chat room is open. Big shout out going out to our internet listeners. Peace and love going out to our family listening over in South Africa, the Netherlands, Great Britain, Japan, Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela, and the areas that we have yet to connect with. Peace and love. Thank you so much for joining us. Big shout out to our callers. I just love our callers. They call in, fill up the lines every week before the show even starts. That is wonderful. And it's also wonderful that, we can do this together, collectively, join our energies together so that we can individually and collectively uplift all of humanity. So big shout out to our callers that call in every week. Let's see. At this time, what we're going to do is go through our list of Moors family members who have been kidnapped and are being held for income. These Moors, and this is something whether you have declared yourself to be a Moor or not. If you are melanated, you're Aboriginal, indigenous to this land, every single corporation disguised as government going by the name of county, city, town, township, or borough, these employees are kidnapping the people off the street and are holding them for income. So we have our sister Abkare Bay, who was kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee Union State. We have Dawood Hill under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Hill, and Kusu Ra Kush Bay under the purview of Missouri, Atharpata Amin Ra Bay under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Taylor Ill, Cherry Thorn Bay, J. McKell Brooks, Joseph Tanaday Ill, Kushamir Bunch Ill, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yasin Khalid Alamin Ill, and Michael Curry, all being held under the purview of North Carolina. Noble Crisco Ill under the purview of New Jersey. Messiah Aziz Ill and Crystal Ill, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge Teron Fisher Ill, Marquis Devion Ill under the purview of Indiana. Solomon Ill Bay, Mumi Abu Bay under the purview of Texas. William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia. Che Ray Bay under the purview of West Virginia. Thomas Lee Bay under the purview of California. Victor Eduardo Avalle Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia. Patricia Bay and her infant baby kidnapped by Atlantic City under the purview of New Jersey. And once again, Malik Hill Bay has been kidnapped by Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. These are Moors, our family that has been kidnapped and are being held hostage for income. If you have a family member that you would like, or someone that you know of, comprehending that we're all family, that you would like to be added to this list, send an email to MHHS-Eyes-Wide-Open@gmail.com, and in the subject line, put kidnap Moor, add to the list. All right. I believe that is it. Today's broadcast, as a result of some information that was received, and it felt appropriate once again to have this discussion. The title of this broadcast on this 3rd of November 2015 is entitled Moorish Divine and National Movement of the World, Moorish Science Temple of America, Nationality, Secret Societies, and 501c3. What is the connection, or is there one? And what does it mean? And there seems to be a great amount of confusion, mostly for the people, as it relates to nationality. Here's a clue to determine what is what. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, I'm taking the covers off of all secret societies. Do you know what the importance of the Moorish Divine and National Movement of the World is? Do you know where your nationality comes from? And can anyone change and or alter your national descent line? It is for this very reason Prophet Noble Drew Ali strongly advised all to study. Now, we are constantly hearing of people who it appears either are being held hostage by these people who have alleged to have established a temple, or there is fighting among the people who have established these temples in terms of who is a valid temple and who is not a valid temple, who has a valid charter, who doesn't have a valid charter. Are you flying under the Moorish Divine and National Movement of the World? Are you a Moorish Science Temple of America? Are you a 501c3? Are you incorporated? Once again, the prophet says, I am taking the covers off of all secret societies. Now, I'm willing to bet, because prophet, I can't say it enough, was absolutely brilliant. He saw far into the future. And I'm sure he might have also been experiencing this division within the family before he had even passed form, which is why he's let everybody know, I'm taking the covers off of all secret societies. So if you're going to any Moorish Science Temple of America, then you know secret society stuff ought to be going on. None whatsoever. So here's the qualification for, is this a temple not so much with a charter from whomever, but not a temple that is following the prophet's work. This is how you can tell if it is that type of a temple. Are they uplifting fallen humanity? That's the only qualification. Because that's the reason for the movement. That's the reason for the temple.
True.
It's not so that people can have some special powers or some special title, by the way, that the prophet didn't even establish. All right? It wasn't for anybody to be running full speed ahead from ego. The only reason for the temple is for uplifting fallen humanity. And it is it's an absolute travesty to hear or know that we have people in these temples that are having temper tantrums, ego trips, and pissing contests. That's not what this is about. This is about uplifting fallen humanity by teaching people to be themselves and to declare their nationality. Now, before I turn over the floor, I want to read an article that is on the Everyday Publications website. You may have seen it. It's on the front page, and I believe it is also under, where is it? Oh, goodness. It's also under...
Food for
what
Thought
is it?
page.
Food for Thought.
It's under the Food for Thought page, but it's also got reposted on the front page, but it's always on Food for Thought. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to leave the floor. And I would love for everyone to close your eyes, listen to the words, and absorb them. This article is entitled The Moor, M-O-O-R, The Temple and Membership. Islam, Peace and Love. This brief is in regards to the many inquiries and or statements in reference to, quote, temple membership. Many Grand Chiefs and members of the Moorish Holy Temples of Science and Moorish Science Temples are implying that in order to be a true Moor, you must be a part of the Moorish Science Temple or Moorish Holy Temple of Science. This statement and statements such as this one are misleading to the people and must be cleared up. First and foremost, I would like to identify clearly what a temple is. Most people's concept of a temple is only a building made of stone, wood, etc., wherein one may enter, when in fact this is far from the case. Temple. The space on either side of the head of man and some other mammals, and some other mammals, back of the eye and forehead, above the zygomatic arch, and behind the ear. An edifice dedicated to the worship of a deity, and anciently usually regarded as a residing place for the deity, whose presence was symbolized by a statue or some other token. Any place in which the divine presence usually resides, the temple of his body. John 2:21. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God? 1 Corinthians 3, verse 16. Excerpts from Webster's New International Dictionary of the English Language. Edifice, a building, a structure, an architectural fabric, especially a large or elegant building as a palace or church. Webster's New International Dictionary of the English Language. Deity, divine nature or rank, the collection of attributes which make up the nature of a god, divinity, godhead, godhood, as the deity of the Supreme Being is seen in his work, a god or goddess. The deity God, the Supreme Being, Webster's New International Dictionary of the English Language. Let's go to the record and refer to our very own lessons as handed down to us by Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Chapter 1 of the Holy Quran, 777. Quote, but man himself is not the body, nor the soul. He is spirit and a part of Allah. But man, like every other thought of Allah, was but a seed that held within itself the potencies of Allah, just as the seed of any plant of earth holds deep within itself the attributes of every part of that special plant. So spirit man, as seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of God. Now seed are perfect, yea, as perfect as the source from which they come, but they are not unfolded into life made manifest. The child is as perfect as the mother is. So man, the seed, must be deep planted in a soil, that he might grow, unfold, as does the bud unfold to show the flower. The human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah was full, ordained to be the Lord of plane of soul, and of the plane of things made manifest. So Allah, the husbandman of everything, that is, threw forth this human seed into the soil of soul. It grew apace, and man became a living soul, and he became the Lord of all the kingdom of the soul. And these soul attributes became a body beautiful. Man is the Lord of all the plane of manifest, of protoplasm, of mineral, of plant, of beast, but he gave up his birthright just to gratify his lower self. But man will regain his lost estate, his heritage, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Elihu said to Mary and Elizabeth, you may esteem yourselves thrice blessed, for ye are chosen mothers of long-promised sons, who are ordained to lay a solid rock, a sure foundation stone on which the temple of the perfect man shall rest, a temple that shall never be destroyed. Teach them that Allah and man are one, but that through carnal thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah, debased himself. Teach that the holy breath would make them one again, restoring harmony and peace. Chapter 2, verse 14. If ye would ask me what to study, I would say yourself. And when ye well have studied them, and then would ask me what to study next, I would reply, yourself. Chapter 3, verse 20 through 22. This rite of cleansing is a preparation rite, and they who thus are cleansed comprise the temple of purity. And ye shall say, ye men of Israel, hear, reform and wash, become the sons of purity, and ye shall be forgiven. This rite of cleansing and this temple are but symbolic of the cleansing of the soul, which does not come from outward show, but is the temple within. Chapter 4, verse 12 through 21. One day, as he was bringing forth the tools for work, he said, these tools remind me of the ones we handle in the workshop of the mind, where things were made of thought and where we build up character. We use the square to measure all our lines, to straighten out the crooked places of the way and make the corners of our conduct square. We use the compass to draw circles around our passions and desires to keep them in the bounds of righteousness. We use the axe to cut away the knotty, useless, and ungainly parts and make the character symmetrical. We use the hammer to drive home the truth and pound it in until it is a part of every part. We use the plane to smooth the rough, uneven surfaces of joints and block and boards that go to build the temple for the truth. The chisel, line, the plummet, and the saw all have their uses in the workshop of the mind. And then this ladder with its trinity of steps, faith, hope, and love, on it we climb up to the dome of purity in life. And on the 12th-step ladder, we ascend until we reach the pinnacle of that which life is spent to build, the temple of perfected man. Chapter 5, verses 25 through 31. Lamaze asked, pray, what is faith? And Jesus said, faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah and man, the surety that man will reach the Devic life. Salvation is a ladder reaching from the heart of man to the heart of Allah. It has 3 steps. Belief is first, and this is what man thinks perhaps is true. And faith is next, and this is what man knows is true. Fruition is the last, and this is man himself, the truth. Belief is lost in faith, and in fruition is lost. And man is saved when he has reached deific life, when he and Allah are one. Chapter 7, verses 12 through 25. And Jesus said, the Allah I speak about is everywhere. He cannot be compassed with walls, nor hedged about with bounds of any kind. All people worship Allah, the One, but all the people see Him not alike. This universal Allah is wisdom, will, and love. All men see not the triune Allah. One sees Him as Allah Almighty, another as Allah of thought, another as Allah of love. A man's ideal is his God, and so, as man unfolds, his God unfolds. Man's God today, tomorrow is not God. The nations of the earth see Allah from different points of view, and so He does not seem the same to everyone. Man names the part of Allah he sees, and this to him is all of Allah. And every nation sees a part of Allah, and every nation has a name for Allah. You Brahmins call him Power Brahm. In Egypt he is Thal, and Zu is his name in Greece. Jehovah is his Hebrew name, but everywhere he is, the causeless cause, the rootless root, from which all things have grown. When men are afraid of Allah and take him for a foe, they dress up other men in fancy garbs and call them priests, and charge them to restrain the wrath of Allah by prayers, and when they fail to win his favor by their prayers, to buy him off with sacrifice of animal or bird. When man sees Allah as one with him, as Father Allah, he needs no middleman, no priest to intercede. He goes straight up to him and says, "My Father God Allah." And then he lays his hand in Allah's own hand, and all is well. And this is Allah. You are, each one, a priest, just for yourself. And sacrifice of blood Allah does not want. Just give your life in sacrificial service to all of life, and Allah is pleased. Chapter 10, verse 1 through 4. Also, please take note of the following lessons. 101 questions for Moorish children. 1. Who made you? Allah. 2. Who is Allah? Allah is the Father of the universe. 3. Can we see him? No. Where is the nearest place you can meet him? In the heart. These are just a few examples, as there are many, to show and prove that temples cannot, in fact, only be buildings built from stone, wood, etc., and that the first temple man enters on this place and must begin to clean out before trying to enter any other is self. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens. Excerpt from A Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nation. There should also be emphasis placed on those who attempt to seek salvation through the Moorish Divine National Movement without trying to gain any understanding of Prophet Noble Jew Ali and his message. Many don't know or care to know the divine constitution and bylaws. 101 questions for Moorish children, or Circle 7 Quran, which is indeed not right and exact. I encourage all to link into these documents for spiritual upliftment and guidance on their journey. If you decide to seek temple membership, how are you to know if the temple, is run properly if you are not familiar with the laws and lessons established by our prophet? This will be equivalent to stating the trustees for our republic, and governors, etc., are not doing their duties, obligations, etc., with no knowledge of the republic constitution, governmental structure they are obligated to. In furtherance, the prophet stated, quote, "This movement will not be recognized without I, the prophet, at the head." I would like to be clearly understood. This brief is not intended to deter nationals from going to the temples, i.e. building, and taking up membership, as the temples are our regency, outposts, headquarters, schools, etc. However, it must be clearly placed on the record that the intention of the prophet was not to keep us limited to temple building, nor is it to deny birthright, because a national doesn't subscribe to a temple building, as has been proven. The temple rests with you. Therefore, in reality, we, the people, are the Moorish science temples and Moorish holy temples of science and any other sanctuary, etc., because it begins with you. Equipped with this understanding, divine, and the national civic side of this movement, one may truly take their place among the affairs of men. Think this over, you Moors. I searched for God and only found myself. I searched for myself and only found God. Sufi Proverb. By Sheikh Lord Justice Supreme Ill, better known as Sheikh Minka Aha-Un Ill.
Wow. Powerful. Powerful.
And you know, we want to make it real clear. I just want to say this, that, you know, I mean, that document actually, or that what you just read just actually kind of clears it up. But we want to make it real clear that no one is saying that, we're not saying that we don't, you know, like the temples, or that the temple wasn't a good establishment. It was an excellent establishment when it was established by the Prophet. But we get a lot of people who, in their quest now to become active, they think that if they're not in a temple, that they are not a Moor, or that, you know, they can attain the degrees that they need to attain, which is whether they were in the temple as a member or not. You know, they have to, you know, get up on their studies, period. You know, either way. The temples were established so that could have a curriculum of actually doing that. But I can tell you now, it's not exactly what the curriculum is after infiltration, and that confusion that goes on with that now. But what the people need to recognize is to you know, not let that be a gauge for disunity, just because there are people who are in disunity, and just because they may or may not be, or they may be in a temple, leadership of the temple, may have been there for 50 years. It doesn't matter. Just because they may be in disunity with all that, that should not deter the people from recognizing what they have to do in these days and times. Because as you said, the purpose of it was to bring people into constitutional photo government so that they could link themselves back to the family of nations, right, and take their affairs, and take their place in the affairs of man. Got to always remember the mission and the purpose. So with or without the building, or without being a member in the temple or not, we still have to attain that, because that's the cause. So buildings and institutions do not create the cause. The cause creates the institution to effectuate the remedies to the problem. And that's what and the Prophet already wrote what those remedies were. So you can't, like, we have a lot of people who say they domicile in areas and there's no temple around, and they feel like because of that they can't go forth and be active. And they've got to be clear that that's not the case. I mean, we all have to triple time study now because of some of the hindrances to getting the messages out. Now, another thing people will say with this, that comes sometimes directly from temples, and then everybody knows they're all divided amongst themselves anyway. You know, that, okay, well, you are subordinate, or you are a subordinate temple. Now, let's get something straight right now. I have found that those people who many want to identify as subordinate are actually the ones that are the missionaries doing this work. But what they mean by subordinate is if you should go out, and a lot of people are doing that too, and try to establish your own temple, and you didn't get a charter from typically from Chicago, then they label you as subordinate, renegade, or what have you. See, that right there shows you their intent is off the chain. They're dealing with membership and clubs, because especially when you find one, and many were and still are 501c3s, which means they're subordinate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're subordinate. Yeah, it's like, shut up. What are you talking about? I mean, people got their eyes open today, and the prophet already warned it. Look, the Moors are coming with your eyes open. And, you're subordinate to a corporation, and you want to tell somebody they're subordinate because they don't have a charter from you? The charters are open and free to have in terms of, if someone wanted to open a temple. But that's another thing. The first thing they want to do is go out and open a temple. Now, I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but if you don't understand what was just read and what the temple truly is, it's between your two temples in your head, it's your body. If you don't get that, I'm going to tell you right now, you don't need to open a temple, because the temple is the building that represents the true temple of God, which is the body. And so when it is said that, the people are returning to the temple, everybody thinks it's, breaking the doors down to get into some temples, whether they're 501c, whether they're subordinate. But it really is not that. Returning to the temple means you're returning to you. That's what it means. You are the temple. That's just a building. And, again, we honor the prophet's work, and we understand it and do it whether we're in the temple or not, because we keep our eye on what the mission is about. And, this, calling someone else subordinate, calling people not real Moors, it's just really shut up already with that craziness,
Mm-hmm.
And let's continue to move forward. Islam.
You know what? You're so right. I just want to make 2 points. First of all, before, even now I can do this, but before, I was never one to go to any of these so-called churches but I can tell you, I have never, whether I thought I was a member or not, I can tell you that I have never gone into any church or any synagogue or what do they call it? The Nation of Islam temple. I've never gone into any one of those places and get stopped. And anybody ask me, oh, what church you belong to, or what temple you a member of, or what synagogue are you out of? Never once. Here's another thought. The modern Europeans go to church. The fact that they go to church or don't go to church, it doesn't determine their nationality. Why is it that in this Moorish divine and national movement of the world, which the temples are incorporated into the government of the Moorish nation, that would be the Great Seal, why is it that our people lose their minds, lose this comprehension, when it comes to Moors and nationality and our temples? We're the only people that profess to have a temple, and we're stopping people, or because they're not a part of our temple. They got 5,000 temple number 1s and 5,000, 2,000 temple number 5s, and everybody's fighting about, oh, you got the wrong number, or, no, I'm number 1. No, you can't be number 1 because I'm number 1. I got my charter already, so from the authority, so you can't be number 1. I'm number 1, or I'm number 5, or I'm number 7.
Well, wait a minute. You're not. Let me just say something to you. That's very real. I just want to interject here. That is the truth, and it's not that, I just want to say, there is, in fact, 2 temple number 1s. When the prophet passed on, they split, and it's like 2 temple. That's what I'm saying. Division, disunity. I mean, really.
Exactly. But the point of the matter is, and this is why the prophet said you got to study, because there's going to be some great confusion coming. And the only way you're going to be able to work it out is if you study. The only way you're going to be able to know is if you study, so that you can make the determination with your own mind. Your own mind. Not somebody telling you what to think. So that even if they give you information, you can read it and analyze it and come to a reasonable conclusion. Look, I don't care what they want to call themselves. All right? They can be 25,000 temple number 1s, 5s, 7s, and 9s. But the bottom line is, are they doing the work of uplifting, forming humanity?
Yep.
Because if they're not, I don't care what they call themselves. They're not a temple. They're not following the prophet's work. They're not following what the prophet has already put down. That is the end of the subject. If they're hostile, if they're not embracing of the people, they're not following the prophet's work. And that's actually a lesson to the people who have that experience. It's the universe trying to tell you, stop, think about this. You could do this on your own. And the last thing I want to just say, because there's this excerpt that I just read from A Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nation. I know there's going to be some people that get this twisted, where he says, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all nations of the world. The government that he's referring to is not the United States of America. And the incorporation he's referring to is not a corporate construct. Let me read it just for everyone's edification. It says, only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, comma, which is
Hold on.
I
got to interrupt you. I just wanted to take note, and everybody take note. Did he say through the temples, or did he say, what did he say, through the what?
Moorish Divine National Movement.
Of the world. That's it. Okay. All right.
Yes. Only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, comma, which is incorporated in this government. Question, which government? We are Moors. Our government is Great Seal, comma, and recognized by all nations of the world. This is very significant because you got a lot of people running around here talking about, oh yeah, the prophet created a municipal corporation through the herd statutes. Man, look, let me tell you this. You can run about saying that. What you're demonstrating to the people who know is that you think the prophet was dumb and didn't have far-reaching insight. You're also saying that the prophet didn't know a damn thing about law, and this is why he was wallowing around in statutes. You are absolutely showing, when you run with that, you are absolutely showing that you did no studying of the prophet or law or history. Because if you did, you could never, ever fix your mouth to say that. Islam?
Islam, indeed. Like, that's definitely contrary to what the essence of what he brought to the world, really. Not just Moors, but he brought it to us because we needed him the most, basically, the information he was bringing, and that's true. So just off the fact alone that he's saying we're Moors, and we are, if you do any research, you'll quickly find out it was a diversity between Moors and Romans. Like, it was like there's no way he could have been bringing that message, as you said, as far as, you know, establishing a Roman corporation. That's just absurd. Now, I don't know, this is just my perspective, and I don't mean any disrespect at all, at all. But my thing is this. I know the way Prophet Noble Drew Ali set it up was honorable, right, and exact. The old Canaanite temple and then subsequent temples when he was in the earthly form, in the flesh, while he was living in the flesh at Northwest Mexico, North America. Right? What he was doing was bringing us back to that ancient state of mind of our foremothers and forefathers. And like you was mentioning earlier, from the article, you know, there's no need for a middleman to intercede, but there is a need for order to dispense the lessons. You know what I mean? And we got to remember that these conversations come up because, you know, there's people today who are, like, failing this truth in the position of the temple. Now, listen, Noble Drew Ali said, we honor all true and divine prophets, Yeshua, Confucius, Buddha, and Muhammad. Right? Now, we're supposed to be learning about all of those things, among other things. Like, his knowledge is infinite, but all of these things. So when they say Moors don't have temples, like, you have to qualify that. You know what I mean? Did you get the foundation lessons from the Moor Science Temple of America to be able to attend any right and exact temple? Because there's Buddhist temples, there's mosques, there's all of these things. You know what I mean? And we were supposed to get prepared with those lessons from the jump to be able to go into any of these institutions and distinguish truth from falsehood. But now it's like even that institution has been somewhat infiltrated. Like, and I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, just examine it based off the facts. But like when you were saying, and it's true, this is documented fact about, you know, not needing a middleman to intercede. I just wanted to quote from the Moorish Empire in Europe, page 33. It says here, the most superstitious races of men and those that are the highest in intelligence among the most civilized have and require no shrines. Have and require absolutely no shrines. So there's no need for a middleman. And this is speaking of, you know, those highest in intelligence. It's good to learn and get the foundation, but again, you know, it's not to say that if there's corruption that, you know, our salvation is in a corrupted institution. That's not true. However, refinement and your own reasonable analysis, the process of mind, can discern those things when you see it. You already know, like you said, who's doing the work by uplifting fallen humanity, showing how every living thing is connected to every other living thing, and that we have built multiple temples, like innumerable amounts of temples all over the world. We should be taking trips to go see those and look at the science that was left in those via different imageries, dimensions, and things of that nature. So it didn't stop there. You know, that was just, that's entry, and it's supposed to be allegiance to our institutions. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, if there's intentional monopoly or you know, withholding, like, perpetually information, like, oh, you're not supposed to know that, and things of that nature, then, you have to go your way. You can't sit around. And like we said before, there's really only two things that has to happen. Either the people have to come in with their eyes wide open and, civilly put those in place who need to be in place. And like you said, you can't just put on the robe and the fez and, say I'm the Grand Sheik now. Like, you have to put in the work to be competent to even do that. But just going into the times that we are in now and where we apparently are going, those who are coming in, the young, the yet unborn, and those that are coming in with their eyes wide open are going to have to eventually take those positions. Now, the thing is this. It's good to be a part of that, but also keeping in mind that, those adepts are born, not made, like Noble Drew Ali was saying, and taking covers off of all secret organizations. You have those that are naturally born, and then you have those who claim to be made men or made women, but the adepts are not made, they're born. So look into the youth on that level. For those who have the information now, it's like, I'm not saying forget where it's coming from, but it's too much information to say, well, we got to be ignorant because we can't get in the temple. That's wrong in itself. That there's adversity within certain institutions or whatnot, but it still doesn't constitute an excuse for us to be, like, hopeless, like we're not a nation, like we don't have a nationality because, some corrupt priest in the temple wants to act like, he's holier than thou or she's holier than thou, and you're subordinate, and the supreme being is what matters the most. And that right there is intangible, that's intangible. And you are the temple directly connected to that. So it's really back to your natural energy. A lot of things have been infiltrated. And like you said, the prophet noticed it when he was on the scene. And that's why he left certain letters and said different things, So you got some people, even in the temples and even out the temples, who actually think that, our salvation is in Rome and that Noble Drew Ali thought our salvation was in Rome. I don't know how they conclude that, you know what I mean? But, that's what it is. And I think it kind of contributes to, like, us not really understanding, our standing as a nation in international law. Like, yeah, we have grounds to, interface when, we don't see things the same way. That's why we have the Constitution as far as, the doctrines of Christians and all of this here, or foreigners for a more simpler term. But in all reality, some people are supporting that agenda via they have been infiltrated, they're working for Roman corporations, literally, like getting paychecks from them, and under that jurisdiction, because you can talk to some people in or out the temple, and they'll tell you, like, we're citizens of the United States of America. Like, where did that misconception come from? You know what I mean? That's being pumped from inside out. You know what I mean? Like, that's really what it is. So that misconception alone says a lot. I'm not bashing everyone. I'm just saying that when you look at what it really is, there's no institution that can actually interfere with your direct connection to your natural abilities. So let's say you get an adept that's born. What they're going to tell that adept that's born, not made, you're not an adept because you didn't go through the Christian church, or you didn't go to the Muslim mosque, or you didn't go to the Buddhist temple or the Moor Science Temple of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. It's not a disrespect to the institution, but it cannot degrade or debase what the point of it being established for. They can't devalue that, which is the people. You know what I mean? So, yeah, everybody can learn something from anybody, you know, but it was a curriculum strictly set up for us to get this knowledge. And it's like, this is directly from our ancestors. So to say, you know, oh, you can't be a Moor unless you've came through, that's a falsehood. You know, that's definitely a falsehood. And that's what it is. So that was my piece on it, and I feel like it's not about my feelings, but it's just like, you know, the reality is we have a nationality from birth. Whether we went into a church or wherever, you know, that nationality is ours. And no institution can validly say that it's not. Like, they can make the claim, but it doesn't change the truth. So with that being the case, I always say, you know, just keep in mind the laws of nature are immutable. And with that being said, you know, get the knowledge. It's out there. It's too much information out there. I remember it was a point where, you know, we weren't even hearing about Noble Drew Ali, like you were saying before. And at this point, you know, there's information everywhere. So it's our duty to sit down, study this information, and make sure that we're clear so we can declare and pass that on in succession to the next generations. And that's not to exclude anybody who's here now, you know, but what I'm saying is that we cannot not pass the information down or not, you know, teach that we are who we are because an institution, you know, says that we're not, you know, Moors because we didn't go through the temple. You know, like, again, we've nailed this subject a lot of times, and it's just like this. Noble Drew Ali was a Moor before he created or established the old Canaanite temple. Before he was a Moor, before he created the Moorish Holy Temple of Science or the Moor Science Temple of America, all of these things. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's not in itself, you know, your nationality in itself is not a choice of religion. It's immutable descent line. Like, that's what it is. Now, with that descent, you need to understand, you know, who you are, that the point of Noble Drew Ali, where he was saying, look at Buddha, look at Confucius, look at Muhammad. But knowing who you are and knowing who you're not also goes hand in hand with knowing who the European is and knowing who they're not. You know, because when it talks about Christianity, etc., like from a historical context, even with Noble Drew Ali saying we're Moors, well, you would definitely run into the Treaty of Peace and Friendship if you listen to what he says about study thrice times, and then, you know, study yourself. You would already know that the distinguishment between these institutions, as far as, you know, them interjecting certain aspects of being vicars or lords, you know, and why we are making the claim that we're a lord of you, not holding of any, you know, vicar substitute, quote, lords or whatnot. Just that aspect of what you mentioned about, you know, going straight up, putting your hand in the hand of the all and all is well, of Allah and all is well. Like that aspect of cutting the middleman out. But I just want to say that in conjunction with this, because we've seen it happen multiple times where they use certain institutions, infiltrate them to pump a certain doctrine, you know. And from my understanding, like when you go to a temple, it's strictly for lessons and observances. You know, sometimes you have festivities or whatnot, but it's never for like outsiders' commercial purposes, if you will. You know what I mean? Like there shouldn't be Europeans in the temple trying to sell you a cell phone plan because the Grand Sheik agreed type of thing. Like, that's not what that institution was for. I'm not saying that it's something wrong, but you know that you can see a difference in the times when you see that things like that are happening. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you know, we're here to deal with science, knowledge, and this European is sitting here trying to sell cell phone plans. Like, you know, what's that about? Because the so-called Grand Sheik said so, and it's crazy. So my thing is this, you know, get the lessons. You know, in these times, I feel like it's a great thing that the lessons have been put out there and made more readily available for the people. Like, you know, because my mind state was totally different before, you know, I really started reading about Noble Drew Ali or got introduced to what it was about. And then it was like, wow, that helped change concepts, you know what I mean, in a more logical approach in life. It just made a lot of sense. And that line, I don't know, it's sticking with me. It stuck with me when it says, you know, there's no middleman needed. You know, it make you feel like, okay, well, if you don't go, it's no different than somebody saying if you don't go to church every Sunday, you're going to go to hell. Like, how could that be the case? You know what I mean? If you don't go, if you don't come to any temple, you're not a real whatever you claim to be. You know what I mean? It's not right. You know what I mean? It's not right. So that being the case, I just wanted to quote this from Moor's, I was about to say Moor's Heritage and History. But it is Moor's Heritage and History. History of the Moorish Empire in Europe. It says, the relative position of the great officials of church and state had, by reason of the peculiar functions exercised by the former, who had entirely usurped the legislative power, been reversed. So it goes to show you that even with that, because the Grand Sheiks was put in place to make law, right? Put in place to make law. And basically, you know, that's relative to legislative power. It really is. But now, if they could usurp, you know, or corrupt a quote, Grand Sheik to make them inferior and say, well, we're subject to this corporate Christian corporation, you know what I mean? That's usurping the legislative power that we have, not just because we have temples, but because we're a nation. And that's what the institution is for. You know, it's like, it's no different than, like, let's just take any clothes brand that sells sweaters, for example. This is just an example. You can get that direct to the consumer, you know what I mean, without a building. They got different ways to do that. But it's like the building is an outpost to help get the product out there, if you will. I'm not saying or correlating, you know, divine truth with commercial activity. I'm just saying the essence of the concept of the thing and the building that just possesses the thing for your convenience. You know, you can still get to the source of the thing. No different than you can have a garden, you know, and grow watermelons and grow, you know, whatever it is you want to grow. Or you can go to the store and get it. You know what I'm saying? But if you go to the store and get it, you're subject to their process of growing. You know, they might have used pesticides or whatever it is, chemicals to help it grow, to developing yourself through study. That was my analogy on it. So you can still get the thing straight from the source. And this is not, again, to discourage anybody from going or being a part of anything. What I'm saying is we're not going to let somebody say, I mean, at least for yourself, that you're not a Moor because you didn't go to church or you don't go to the temple or you don't go there or here. Like, listen, have to examine yourself, introspection, you know, and know yourself. Whatever you're into, know yourself. And, you know, they can't really pull the wool over your eyes if you already know. you know. And like you said, it'll be times when Moors will be coming with their eyes wide open already. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, well, we already see that you're full of it. Why don't you just step down? You know what I mean? If you're not going to be about what the prophet said, you know.
But then that's when they want to go and open their own temple, and that's the inspiration that they when things like that happen, then they feel like, well, I'm going to go open my own temple. But they are, I know, not yet qualified to do that because they haven't even studied enough yet. But that gives them that. I think that's where they get their inspiration from to do so. And it still goes back to the fact that they believe that in order to be a Moor, you have to go to a temple and gain by degrees. Well, you do have to gain by degrees, but as you just stated, you don't have to go to the temple. So I was listening to, what you were saying, and, it came to my mind. The prophet said, if I could just get you to thinking, you'd free yourself, right? Now, here's something real simple as an example of that. If someone says to you, you're not a Moor unless you come through the temple, well, isn't this about birthrights? Isn't that how it's about your birthrights? The prophet said that himself, right? That you're a Moor by birth. So how is it that any grand chief or anyone in the temple would say some craziness? I tell you why, because they're running a membership club. See, they can have a club. They can have a club if they wish to. It's no problem. But to tell the people that they're not Moors unless they join it, no, that's just like off the chain. That's ridiculous. So, like I said, the prophet said, if I could get you to thinking, you free yourself, and that's one of the matters. And the other thing is, if you did any reading at all with the prophet's work, you would know just by what he said, and then doing some studies on what's a national and what's quasi-national. Every state out there is quasi-national. Now they're all corporations. They're subject citizens to the nation because they're corporations. Because corporations rest in the rank of subject. They're subject to. I mean, everybody is subjected to the government, to the national government, that is. But so for some more to say that you are a citizen of the United States of America, I mean, like they didn't make the distinction. They don't have the knowledge. They really don't. They really are the ones that are going to put you right back into slavery. So I think part of it is that because they are unlearned themselves, I don't give a damn how long they've been in the temple. I don't care how long it's been. They just been there wearing a mantle, having reverse church every Sunday, for real. And they have not studied a lick. And they should be hung by their toenails for that. But that's all right. For them to say that you are a citizen of the United States of America, this is where they're at. Because they're unlearned, they believe that. And then some of them even say they've read the 13th Amendment and just ignored the whole thing about how you can't be a citizen of the United States. That whole thing is about the citizenship of the United States of America, because it certainly wasn't about Moors having to have citizenship. Moors were the national and are the national government. We brought the Europeans into the constitutional fold of government. People have to know that when the United States of America was formed. So with that being said, if you could just get to thinking how is it that you would be joining and being a member of them, and then, with a little bit more study, you would understand that the United States of America, and any state, whether it's a republic state or not, they're quasi-national. Of course they're quasi-national because you're the national, they're quasi-national. So how are you going to be within that government? How are you going to be a member/citizen of that? And these Moors out there, and they're naturalizing people. They didn't read the definition of naturalization. So what they did is they came up with this thing. Well, you got to, since since the 14th Amendment or something came, kicked us out of the fold of government. We got to come back in by expatriating out and expatriating back in and all that crazy malarkey. And when I say malarkey, it's malarkey because because you can't expatriate. Like, in other words, just because they called you a Negro, and the prophet said that himself. He said you were coined. He used the word coined. That means you were branded that Negro, colored, and black. That doesn't mean you are Negro colored. Matter of fact, that's why he said, come hear the truth about your nationality, the truth about your nationality and birthright, meaning you had this when you were born. You're not Negro, colored, and black. So just because somebody called you Negro, colored, and black, and you in your sleep answered to it, that's what the whole Wake Up, You Sleepy-Headed Moors is about. Waking up and recognizing and then declaring, which is being real clear to yourself, and proclaiming, which is putting it in written form, and then start being who it is you say you are. So it's clear that these people who are in these temples and are telling people to naturalize themselves, telling people that they have to come back in through the, because of the 14th Amendment, which the 14th Amendment was for corporations, and it wasn't even ratified. So even if you did think it was for you, it was not. It's not law. See, this is what is really disturbing when the prophet said, to study. He was, he started at civics. And so if you knew law, you would know that the 14th Amendment wasn't ratified. Oh, that's right. You didn't even have to do that, Moor, who's been studying the prophets for all these years, because he told you that. He said there is no need for the 14th and 15th Amendment. If you wanted to know why, a little study, you would figure it out. So why would you use the fact that the 14th Amendment and then you're going to expatriate back in and all that crap when all you have to do, like he said, if you don't do anything else, anything at all, just simply declare your nationality. So how do these Moors and temples, been there for years, don't get this straight because they don't have their eyes open? So now here's the Moors coming with their eyes open and have done some studies, They're the true missionaries now. We should get credit for that. Those who they call subordinate, those who they call renegade Moors, and all that little stupid mess, which is absolutely unfamily-like, because he said we are one nation bearing one free national name appellation, and we put our trust in the names and deeds by our forefathers. So that's where you put your trust at as well. But, so how can they even fix their mouth to say some stupid stuff like that? So now when someone questions them on it, then they start attacking the people, and they don't attack the people. The information, these fools are out there attacking the information. Mm-hmm. They say they didn't listen. They're only attacking information, and the prophet warned them and said this is the electrifying age of information. So holding it back, hiding it, this, stuff, and the other, like you said earlier, Miss, adepts are born. Here comes some adepts knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm. And I want to add something on to that.
Yeah, and the young and yet unborn, they definitely coming. There's a bunch of adepts coming through because that's what's supposed to happen. They're knocking on the door, and you think they're going to buy your wooden nickel? No, hell no. Islam.
I just wanted to add on or read, and these words are not my own. We could build on this. These words are not my own. This is from The Light of Egypt, Volume 1, page 167. And this is part 3. It says, how adeptship is attainable. All right, so this is what it says. It says, we will now proceed to explain, as far as permissible, the modus operandi, which means the mode of operation, by which adeptship is actually attained. But first, it will be necessary to consider who may or who may not possess the necessary qualifications, since the adept is of a truth like the poet, born and not made. All right? So if you're not born with it, going back to what you say, what Anae said, and which has been brought out multiple times in chapter 2, you have to have the light from birth, and that has to be, you know what I mean, recognized or trained until you evolve. That's my interjection. So it says, it goes on to say, is a born king or queen of his kind, is a spiritual and mental giant of his race and cannot be made without possessing these royal qualities in a very highly developed state. Possessing these royal qualities, in a very highly developed state from his birth. External life is too short and the antagonistic forces to be overcome too great during the present cycle for the adept to be manufactured out of the rudimentary forces and embryonic soul qualities of the average mortal. Meaning the average mortal can't even make an adept. You know what I'm saying? So somebody who's telling you you can't be a Moor unless you come through the temple, you already know they're not adept. That it don't even matter who it is. They're Moor with a fez or a European with a suit on. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not even qualified to speak on it.
Oh, I want to add one more thing before we move on with this, and that's what was on my mind. I believe that those who are saying that are absolutely current day sellouts.
Yeah.
And because they think, most of them, I'm sure, are the ones that think that they're citizens of the United States of America, right? I'm sure, because they're unstudied. I think they have an arrangement with these modern European vampires. They don't come to my temple, they ain't real Moors. See, right there, that whole thing about you ain't real Moors, that's a game somebody's playing, man. That's a ego thing going down, and they will sell you out to these modern. These are your brethren, supposed to be grand sheiks and learned people in the temple, talking smack about what they know, and they had a nerve to say you're not a Moor unless you come into the temple, and then they start fighting about what temple you came in. Well, that's the subordinate temple. Well, that's not this and all that. But here's the deal: they are making deals with modern Europeans, telling them, because I've read some of the like when stuff happened, I've read some of the comments that these grand sheiks make, and it's oh my God, it's appalling. They're missionaries telling people they are Moors, and you sitting there saying, oh, he not a Moor because he comes from our temple. What? I mean, really? And this is why, let's add to what the prophet said now. He didn't just say that the young, that those will come with their eyes wide open. He also said, and the old Moors will have to take what? A back seat. And you sit your ass down because you really don't know what the heck you're talking about, at all. Nobody said throw you out. Sit down. That's what a back seat means. That means sit down.
With honors, though, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta. I mean, not everybody. You know what I mean? Some people, like you said, have made blatant deals to suppress us, our own. You know what I mean? And but you have to, acknowledge those who put in the work to put this information to the forefront. And when that time comes, I mean, like, if I was an elder and, you spend your time like you have, Anae has put in work, everybody, I'm not calling you older, but respectably saying elder. You know what I'm saying? That it should be an honor to be like, all right, well, there's a next generation that's competent. Man, look, you know what I'm saying? From what you contributed to put into the forefront, you help see it manifest. It's like, man, I put all this work in now. Somebody else is competent to do it. You will honorably be like, all right, well, I could take a back seat. I don't have to, not be a part of it. But it's
Right.
like, you know,
Right.
it's like a student, it's like a teacher who sees that troubled student graduate. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, man, I helped push through, or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? I know something about this one, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, now I'm good. You know what I mean? I don't know, but
I want
it
to
has
say
to
one
be an honor in it. It has to be an honor in it.
And that's what he was saying. But the problem is they don't want to do that because their ego is too damn large, and or both, you know, or they have made these deals with modern Europeans that, you know, he's not from my temple, you know, and talking crazy because they actually believe that they are citizens of the United States of America. And it's crazy. But I do want to take this opportunity to take a shout out to all of those young and yet unborns who've been coming. I call them new skins, right? Who've been coming to the class, and I know they're adept in their spirit, you know, and they come and they're listening and they're taking and they're attentive to what's being said. And I want you to know that we acknowledge you, we see you. You know, this is for you. All right.
And if I could finish adding on real quick on the subject of adept shit, right? I just want to finish this real quick. All right, so I left off where it was talking about, you know, you can't manufacture an adept out of rudimentary forces and embryonic soul qualities of an average mortal. It says, it has been asserted by one who claims the honor of adeptship that the adept is the rare efflorescence of an age. This, however, is only figuratively correct, as in real truth, there are several such flowers in each race during the course of a single generation. Each family, plant, or race of man ultimately produces the rare flower of its line and then becomes exhausted for that cycle it has run to seed. Not all of these rare flowers of the royal line may attain adeptship, since they often exhaust their forces in other directions for the good of humanity. But such souls alone possess the possibilities, or in other words, they have the necessary primary inborn qualifications. Therefore, when these primary qualifications exist in a person, the first course to be pursued is to devote as much time as possible to the study of spiritual subjects obtainable in the outside world, and to master each and every branch of occultism. Simultaneously, the body must be trained in regard to matters of diet and the sexual relations. In other words, the human soul must be evolved entirely above the animal soul, i.e. the sphere of undeveloped good in man. And man's constitution must be developed. The animal forces, passions, and appetites, basically the lower self, must be gradually developed and transformed or evolved into human qualities instead of being conquered and chained like wild beasts, as taught by some mystics. The problem of good and evil must be solved by the student in each individual case. And right here consists the vital point of failure or success, defeat or triumph. Can the student train his physical desires to work in harmony with the spiritual desires? We have labored over and over again to impress upon the student that man is a composite being and that perfection consists in harmonious evolution. All right, so it is. That's just an excerpt on the subject of obtaining adeptship. That's based off of inborn qualities that you have to evolve and train, no different than anything else. Now, this is the last thing I want to say, and then I want to yield the floor, if this is cool. It's actually, again, these words are not my own. This is from the treasured writings of Khalil Gibran, page 109. And, you know, just that whole...
My favorite writer.
Yeah, you was reading this while I was in the room. I don't know about this particular book here, but, yeah, you already know. So this is what he said. I found it interesting, just correlating back with studying and training those inborn qualities. This is what this man said. All right. So this is from page 109 of the Treasure Writings of Khalil Gibran. I sought solitude in order to conceal myself from those self-satisfied individuals who see the specter of knowledge in their dreams and believe that they have attained their goal. I fled from society to avoid those who see but the phantom of truth in their awakening and shout to the world that they have acquired completely the essence of truth. I deserted the world and sought solitude because I became tired of rendering courtesy to those multitudes who believe that humility is a sort of weakness and mercy a kind of cowardice and snobbery a form of strength. I sought solitude because my soul wearied of association with those who believe sincerely that the sun and moon and stars do not rise save from their coffers and do not set except in their gardens. I ran from the office seekers. This is what made me want to read this because, like you said, people say, oh, I want to open up a temple or, if I'm this quote-unquote type of sheik and, assistant and all of these different titles. Like, they coming in looking for positions, you know what I'm saying, official positions, and haven't even really mastered the basics. I ran from the office seekers who shattered the earthly fate of the people while throwing into their eyes the golden dust and filling their ears with sounds of meaningless talk. I departed from the ministers who do not live according to their sermons and who demand of the people that which they do not solicit of themselves. I sought solitude because I never obtained kindness from a human unless I paid the full price with my heart. I sought solitude because I loathed that great and terrible institution which the people call civilization, that symmetrical monstrosity erected upon the perpetual misery of humankind. I could go on, but when he mentioned solitude from the office, because those who was office seeking, and and you have to study in your own zone. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that period of, okay, I have to introspect. Like, this is a part of what Noble Drew Ali was saying, when he was mentioning study, and study well. Study, we acknowledge all prophets, all true and divine prophets, Confucius, Buddha, Muhammad, etc. The Buddha is introspecting. It's a part of life. You know what I mean? Like, you have to look at yourself, notice, all right, I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is made perfect, but, everybody has some fault or something, I don't know, I guess I can speak for myself, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and develop those qualities that you see in yourself. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just, I don't know any other way to explain it right now, but, those who are saying that, those ministers, the ministries, the office seekers, all of these people, and, claiming you can't be a Moor unless you do this or you do that, that's when you should know right then, you definitely, it's nothing wrong with unity, but you might have to seek solitude to further your understanding about what's going on and what you're going to do next. Because sometimes you need that to clear your head. So that, I just wanted to correlate, the solitude, the change, no different than a caterpillar who, climbs in the tree and spins the cocoon. And you gave me this lesson a while ago, man. You know what I mean? And comes out, transformed, if you will. You know what I mean?
That's an example of spirituality at its highest height, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And transformation, and going through something, get to something. That's it.
Right. Good. So that's what I wanted to correlate, and the fact that, adeptship is an inborn quality. You're not going to find that outside of yourself. If you was born with those inborn qualities, And it's not to say, somebody is born holier than thou. It's just everybody is not meant to do everything. Like, we all could, but, you might just been meant to be a mufti. You might just been meant to be a writer. You might just been meant to, do the enrolling for the schools that we're going to have, in the future or whatever it is. Like, everything is, like, people can play different positions, but, you know what I'm saying? It's like some people are just meant to do what they do because that's just the inborn quality, and you can't wipe that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, that's what it is. So I trust that, the words we are all speaking and have spoken, wisdom, and that's really interesting. So, again, I'm just going to say this again, the correlation was the solitude and the inborn qualities, because the first 3 letters of solitude is soul, which is, within. And you got to understand that you're a spirit and a part of Allah, as was read in the beginning of the show. You know what I mean? And that, once you connect on that level, you can't tell somebody that. You know what I'm saying? Like, once you feel the connections, certain things happen in your life and like, yo, this is not, it might be you, but it's like it's something else working with you. Like, you didn't physically have to lift a hand or do anything tangible, and things just go your way. Granted, there will be challenges. I'm not saying that it won't. But certain things, man, it's just like, I don't know. It's unique, to say the least. So solitude, looking within, not being like totally antisocial, but just to say that it's nothing to, like, I think that was also read on the that Eve read earlier, or she quoted that herself, that I was looking for God and found myself, but then I was looking for myself and found God, or something of that nature. Like, all of this is within you, like, and that's the real truth. And yes, we're supposed to congregate, assemble, and do these things, but there's just certain things that are just inborn, and that's just what it is. No different than a fighter that knows how to spin his web, or different birds, or no, not birds, but different animals. Like, you see different attributes of nature. Like, let me say, let's say a turtle, for example. A turtle. Turtles, they lay their eggs on the beach shore, and they bury them so that they're like under the surface. They're not easy vicks or targets. But it's like something instinctive or intuitive with the turtle, that when it hatches, or any other animal, when it hatches in the sand, whether it's croc, whatever, like, they instinctively just all together, after they hatch, go straight to the water. That's intuitive. Like, that's something built in. It could go the other way, but they just know, all right, we right here, let's go to the water. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether or not they could swim is not even a question. They just know we're going to the water because we right here. You know what I mean? So I say that certain things are just inborn to do, And with that, I respectively yield the floor for now, son. Islam, y'all there?
Islam, yes, I am here. I was just trying to get the mute off my phone.
All right, so I thought I dropped for a minute. I was like, oh. So, yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. You're absolutely good.
Cool.
Yes.
Indeed.
But look, here's the thing, and I know saying this is really pointless, because it's still going to happen. But I'm going to say it anyways. With the information that was delivered from the beginning of this show, nobody should have any confusion. No one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if you should find yourself in the presence of someone who appears to be confused still, I would suggest you just burn a copy of this show and give it to them, or hot.
Right.
How about this?
Mm-hmm.
Go to the RV Bay Publications website and give them that article on the temple, because if you don't get, because even though the article was written and put together, the references came straight out of the prophet's work, or I should say the prophet's writing. It came straight out of those writings. So if you need some clarity, there you go. Read that article. It gave some great quotes. Listen to this broadcast. Clears up a lot of information, and it gives you some serious food for thought and clarity. So with that, what I would like to do, because it is 11 after 11, we got like 19 minutes left to the internet broadcast. What that means is at 11:30, the internet feed is going to go down. You can call 347-945-5899 and try to get in on any available lines. If you're not able to, wait until 12:30 and download the broadcast in its entirety, and you can listen to the last hour. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to open the lines. Our first caller is 571-225. Caller 571-225. You're on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Maxim.
Yes, this is Najee Bey, Northwest Maxim, and I really can't add anything to it. I just have to say Islam, and I'm going to yield the floor to everybody that has something to say.
Are you the brother last week that dropped off?
Yeah, I was trying to.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah. On Sunday, right? I just caught your voice anyway. Islam, peace and love to you. Thanks for calling.
Okay, thank you. Noble.
Alrighty. If you have a question, comment that you'd like to pose, press 1 on your telephone dial, and you will be placed in the queue. All right. Caller 412-969. Caller 412-969. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation.
Islam, family.
Islam.
My computer.
Peace and love.
Yeah, this is Energy, calling from Northwest Maxim.
All right.
Just calling in. I'm so grateful that you all did this broadcast, because of the fact that when I'm out here, that's one of my main conversations when I meet melanated people, as Anani said earlier. I ask them directly, what's your nationality? I always bring that up in conversation, because I know that's a conversation that we're just not having in our homes, in our so-called institutions, and, what have you. So I just appreciate the fact that this broadcast has, been made in that way. It's archived, and I can play it for those who visit. What I consider, I domicile in this building, but I also consider our little community center, because I can't go to the temple here because the temple here is not doing, the prophet's work. And it's with a heavy heart that I, had to figure this out, find these things out. But nonetheless, it hasn't stopped me from doing what I need to do, and I knew that it did not give me my nationality. The fact that my mother is a Moor is the reason why I am a Moor. It's so simple, and I appreciate the fact that you all put this out there for those who are tuning in to hear this and get clarity on that, and for those who haven't heard and get an opportunity to hear from those of us who will play it for our friends and families and acquaintances that, we come across and what have you. So, yeah. But that whole temple thing, I just have a question, though. What is this deal with the reincarnated thing? I've asked it before, but I'm asking again. I just could never wrap my head around it. When I was sitting in that building, I would look at those two pictures. I recognized Noble Ali, but the other guy, And they clearly told me that that's who they follow. And I'm like, I don't get it.
Well, when this is really circled around the entire conversation, subject matter. When the prophet passed on, that was the chauffeur. He said that the spirit came into him, and so that he is now the new prophet Muhammad Ali. Well, if you want to say that you're filled with the spirit, that's one thing. But reincarnation does not occur. See, this is where it gets you to thinking that. And people will say anything, I guess, depending on what drives them. So what happens is reincarnation comes in with a new birth, not with the full grown
Exactly.
person.
I know. That's what I'm saying. If he was the driver.
So with that alone, right there, it can help people in this day and time to try to somehow
navigate
understand that that's just, and then on top of that, it is a division. It's actually, in other words, they're not from the Moorish Science Temple. They're not, regular Moors or whatever that is. They're reincarnated. And here's the deal. The whole thing is this. They're all following somebody.
Yes.
But hold on. But the prophet himself said, I have given you enough information to free an entire nation. However, just go out and free yourself. So why are these people taking up to follow somebody? That's not what the prophet said to do.
But think about it. If I hadn't studied before I went into that temple, I may have gotten caught up in that madness that they running over there.
A lot of people have. They messed up too. They're so messed up. Listen, they're so messed up that I think it may take a long time or a lot of time or a lot of something in order for them to get straight, and they may not get straight. Because what you have to understand is like raising a child and raising them wrong, saying you're welcome when you should be saying thank you or whatever like that. They've learned wrong. They've desired this information, and they got it all backward. I said that purposely. So now, after their sincere desire to get with it and do, get involved and be active, they just got messed up. And so part of that mess up is, as we call it again, reverse church. Because that's what it is. See, a lot of people think this is about religion and church, but it's not about dogmatic religion as people know it. And this is very important for the people coming in, and especially the young unborn. This is not a religious choice. In as far as how you know religion, because say that because religion is law, order, and governing principles guided by the solar the solar stations would be your guide to it's astrology, astronomy, and cosmology. However, they don't know that, so it was purposely done on the infiltration to put reverends and infiltrators in these places of grand sheets and in these temples that would push it towards being a religious choice. And that's why you have that people thinking that that's what it is, and you also have people that are actually believing that that's what it is, and all they think they got to do is like a person go to church on Sunday, go home, and then nothing else is transformed. And that is not what this information is. Islam.
And to add on to that, I just wanted to add on, because she mentioned the point about saying that what's up with the incarnation and reincarnation. I just want to say that's one of the old tricks, and I just want to give this attestation in reference from the Light of Egypt, Volume 1, page 69. It says, fiction was substituted, and this goes to show that there is a correlation with, the infiltration of the Europeans as well, from taking that formula. Now look, this is what it says in The Light of Egypt, Volume 1, page 69. It says, fiction was substituted in the place of truth, or, in other words, the real truth was veiled and the appearance of truth was taught instead. And in order to obtain absolute power for the monarch and the church, it became necessary to formulate the dogma that an emphasis on that their high priest, the pontiff or hierophant as he was called, was a direct incarnation of the deity or reincarnation of that being. So when you see that, somebody is saying, I'm the incarnation, or, I'm the reincarnated, and they're not saying that as a matter of from birth, like, somebody passed on next to you and now you're them. Like, you got to understand, too, that is an old trick for the gain of power. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. Like, so, yeah, that was done by a high priest, as it says, the pontiff or hierophant, as he was called, to have people think, they were a direct incarnation of the deity or a reincarnation of that being, and that was what was kind of like necessary for the monarch in the church to maintain power, like, I'm the servant of God and reincarnated 1,000 times here for you today type of thing. Like, it's not that it can't happen, but it's the way that it happens. As you said, it's from birth. Like, that being will be cast back regardless. But, if it's not like a process from birth, like the angel wasn't pulled, magnetically directly to the womb, it's kind of hard to say, or even believe that somebody incarnated or reincarnated in that fashion. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that on, as far as fiction being substituted in the place of truth. And one of the methods they did, to have people think that, they were these almighty, mighty, powerful beings, something like the Oz, something like the Oz in the Wizard of Oz. They claim
but the prophet said it already. See, this is what makes it so interesting, and is that he already addressed that, knowing that it would be what would come about. He said truth and falsehood have been strangely mixed, and when you really study, you find it to be so true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, anyway, thanks for calling. Ida, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. I just keep on muting my phone so I don't get any feedback or background noise. All right, our next caller. Next caller is caller 804-921. Caller 804-921. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexico.
This is Azad Afron Bay, calling from Northwest Africa, Mexico.
Peace.
I am the caller that dropped off last week in the middle of the call talking about the judge.
Yeah, you was going in. You was getting ready to go in. You was going in.
Yeah, I was in the hospital with my wife, and something happened with the connection, and I wanted to get back in, and I could not get in. The call was maxed out. I was like, man, I went to the internet to get on, and some kind of way I kept messing up, and then next thing I know, y'all was off the call. I was like, man, I missed it, but I went back and got the recording. Wonderful call. Like I said, it's been so many things that happened. Like I said, just listening to the call and my question, like I said, because I think I had talked to Miz and Cujo, one of the Sons of Allah, and we was talking about I had went to one of the temples, and it's like you were saying, like you all were talking on the call tonight, and it was my first time going. It was a Friday night, and I said, well, hey, I just want to check them out to see what was going on, and I go up in there and start talking to one of the sheiks, and after everything was over, and I showed them my card, because I was asking them about theirs, and they was like, well, in order to join our temple, or the Moorish movement, you have to get rid of that and grab this card, and their card said a citizen of the USA, and I was like, I don't think I'll be doing that. So I just kind of, backed myself out of there, and I haven't been back. I mean, the main thing here is, I think it's like one of the brothers on the call, because we are in this area, like talking with Miz, because we're in this Chaco area, the whole point is that there's no one here that we can align ourselves with. And there's a couple of us here, and
yes,
we studied. We're not connected with them, So the problem is, like I said, is where we want to turn it into a solution. Is like where you all talk on the calls, where we have writs and we have sent in certain things, and they're just not honoring them, So they know that we're still studying, we're still students, So we don't know everything, and it does become frustrating, because like I said, I told one of my nobles, I said, hey, I had a dream, and the dream was pretty much I got fat, and my neck was all fat, and I mean it was just a crazy dream. So what I got out of the dream is that I'm getting a lot of information, and it's actually not weighing down on me heavy, but it's just sometimes where you just want to breathe, because it's so much that you didn't know that was taking place, that it just opens your eyes, and you're like, wow, all this been happening, and that's just the awakening point, So I like learning.
Right, and that, like you said, when you're learning and you're going in, it's just like years ago when Moors was first going in, it was a different response from the court. I think they got a different response from these people. Now the real reason why they're not honoring them is because they're not honorable. They're criminals.
Yes.
And it's become such a influx of this, that what they're doing now, and it doesn't make it right, because silence. See, for someone who is supposed to be an officer of the court or has a fiduciary duty, if that be the case, when there's silence is fraud. When there is an obligation to speak, in other words, they should not be on those sitting as judges, but they're not judges. This is all proof of it. And they should not, when they see that any of your rights, your constitutionally secured rights, have been violated, they should be appalled. They're supposed to be judges and mediators as well. So when they can blatantly see that they've been violated, their duty, they have a duty to speak. They have a duty to speak, but they're not, because, see, they weren't before, but now everybody knows, and it's just in our face. It's like, this is who we are, we're going to go down. They may be going down, and they're going to try to take everybody with them. So what they do is they know there's still Moors that aren't really very learned, because you got to come out the first time. Everybody got to come out the first time because of what you just said. All this stuff has been going on, and we never saw it. Now we see it. So you come out the very first time. You may even be a little apprehensive about it, but they're catching hell as well, because they got a fish net out there, if you will, trying to get the Moors who really don't know yet. They know a little bit, but not quite enough, And it's a difficult position to be in, but that's what's happening. But in reality, if they don't have a delegation of authority that says that they are even a court, I mean, the way we see it is, ask them for it, your writ that you requested it, you know you're not going to get it, but you got law is notice. So the writ that you wrote to request it becomes Exhibit A, or not A because the cause of action would be A, whatever they did, becomes an exhibit, or actually becomes more than that, becomes evidence that you asked, and that's what you would take your suit on, because they can't violate any portion of due process of law at all. Any of it, to violate any one thing, and really the whole Constitution is due process, but, then and then you just sue with it rather than being toe-to-toe with them because they're just calling you in, wasting your time, biding time, because they don't have what you want. But then I think they're looking to see how long are you going to keep coming back? How long are you going to keep doing this? That's what I think they do. Well, haven't you sued us yet? Oh, you haven't, huh? And then I think they pounce on you and suck your blood. Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing.
So the opportunity, excuse me, the what do you want to call it? The going in and practicing, so to speak. That's for lack of a better word. That was afforded to many before are not exactly afforded now, because the consciousness that the people have in this, you have to understand they're only doing it for finance. And when they're adding up their end of the month receipts, end of the week receipts, end of the quarter receipts and stuff, they're not getting what they used to get, because even if you went in to the first time went into with a special appearance, you and then they gave you another date because they just bullcrapping, right? What you said kind of set them back. They're going to give you another date. Well, usually the first time someone comes into the court, by the end of that, so-called court, by the end of that session, they have either paid them, right, or they've made arrangements to make payment plans. Well, that's not happening now. People are challenging them, so they're not getting the finance in the manner in which they used to, or as much as they used to. So right now they're just going to take all they can before they just fall flat. Oh.
True. Like leeches, colonists do.
Yeah, what I was going to add, I was, because what happened after the court, after, like you said, the so-called court, I went and did some research because, like I said, I went in with the noble because he was, going for his to get the guardian license take off his case, or off the kid's case, because he lost custody of his children in some kind of way. I think that they said that his uncle was molesting the children, but his uncle is paralyzed. So his mother has custody of the uncle, which is his brother. So they took custody of the children from him. And what I did is, like I said, I went and did some research on the computer, and I found the website of where he said he was elected by the governor, and I saw that, and he's supposed to be his term is up in 2019. So I'm looking and I'm searching some more, and I told the noble today, because we hadn't had a chance to talk, is that when I was searching, I found a website that you can people can go and vote. I mean, not vote, but they can actually put comments and make bad reviews. And this goes back to the Constitution, because this is on every judge. So they can, if it was 100 people that just made bad reviews on that judge, I don't know exactly, because I don't have the Constitution in front of me, but is when they don't get good reviews, or if they're not in good standing, they have to step down. So
okay, but that's the same thing that's suing them, because they're corporations and they have insurance, and it's just like if you had insurance on a car, and if you had too many accidents, your rate goes up. So the same thing goes. But I'm interested. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested in this website that you're talking about, because that might be a nice soft kill right there to report on these judges, these so-called judges, these They're not even magistrates. They are straight up. They don't even have a fiduciary duty because they're not really judges.
Yes, and
So,
what you said.
yeah.
I found out he's a lawyer. So it says it says it on the paperwork. It says lawyer. I'm like, wow, they're not even hiding it like you all said. It's right in plain view. We just have to know what to find.
Mm-hmm. And they're really not even lawyers. They're attorneys. They're attorneys. And that's what it is. Like trying to fill the position of lawmen. But they're dealing with the, like they told you direct, you know what I mean? They're dealing with they are Christians in the historical context of the word, and like when they told you that they didn't swear on the Constitution and they swore on the Bible, like that's unconstitutional in itself. You know what I mean? But these are, and it's not to create animosity on anybody's religion. I'm really just speaking from the historical context that these are the people who infiltrated the de jure government, and that's what it is. Like, that's really what it is. I'll just add this on. This is an excerpt from History of the Moorish Empire in Europe, page 208. It says, the wise, tolerant, and judicious policy of the early ecclesiastics that had animated and directed the councils of the church, which by its humanizing influence had softened the prevailing rudeness of the age and framed laws. All right, forget what it says after that. They framed laws, all right, which are not really laws. Like, because if it's contrary to the Constitution, it's not a law. But what I'm saying is that in the same relationship with the church and state that was never really separated in reality, and that's really who you're dealing with. And we should not be surprised if we really understand the language of the Treaty on Peace and Friendship. 1787, Article 11 makes the clear distinction. And then also, just to add on, like they accuse somebody of something that's an impossibility, being paralyzed. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know all the details, but I'll say this, and I know my mother Anna E quote verbatim which article of the the rights Declaration on Human Rights or Rights of Indigenous People, where it says the child should not be removed from the family under any pretext. Now, I understand that those allegations are serious, but at the same time, it's an impossibility, so it's frivolous, you know what I mean? But
don't you think that's what they're going to be doing now a lot? Because, they, like I said, they're losing finance and they're trying to keep the people under their control. So what he's talking about, they claim the film of molesting, but he's paralyzed, like really ridiculously not true. Well, this is what they're going to be doing to the people and have been doing to the people.
I was about to say, this is what they have been doing, though. They've been doing that. They've been doing that. And it don't even have to be an accusation of that magnitude. Like, they falsely accuse or allege, you committed an offense. And it's not an offense. But I say this is in NJ versus Madison County, DHR 2007. It says the court held that the fundamental right to family integrity protected by the Constitution, the national Constitution, protects a parent from state interference with his or her relationship with his or her child. Like, this is what it says. That's the language from the case in NJ versus Madison County, 2007, DHR. So, just going back and understanding, where it says family integrity, and that we're all one family bearing one free national appellation, that family integrity is national integrity, and for them to remove the child on unwarranted allegations, you know what I mean, like impossible considerations, there's a lot of grounds to fight for it. But again, I understand what you're saying. Is like they're just trying to ignore it. And ignorance of the law is no excuse. Just stay steadfast and do what you got to do. But I would not leave that part out as a defense that you're claiming somebody who's paralyzed, incapable of doing anything on their own merit, did something of that magnitude. If that's the case, that's an impossible consideration and avoid accusation, man. It's malicious. It's malicious.
Well, on the rights of indigenous people, brother, you might want to, but here's the thing. We can tell you, like, the rights of indigenous people, part 2, I think, is Article 6. It says that it's on the site on the Return of the Law. All right. Well, it says that an indigenous child cannot be taken away from family under no pretext. That means they can pre-think about, post-think about, no reason at all. But the other part of that is that those who have been Negro, colored, and black, they're not. You have to claim that you are Aboriginal or Indigenous. So you got to start being, not you, but all of us have to start being that. So it applies to Aboriginal, Indigenous, but if you're not making that claim and that status correction, then you know what? It doesn't apply. And the fact that they're doing it, is really human trafficking on anyone. That's genocide and human trafficking. Because they're parents, they're a child of war to the state. Without the claiming of nationality, there's no law that protects you if you don't. No national law, nothing that protects you if you don't claim your nationality. Because these people, not that you would, but they're not government, and they're certainly not yours.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. And what was going on with the brother? Like I said, because I have some things going on, but they have passed. But I know that we have to continue on studying. Mine was just simple driving. Traveling charges, So one, I actually got taken off because I used some tactics that I had learned, before I, learned more stuff, and they kind of worked, but that was something that you all were talking about, the sovereign movement, and things that they use that probably doesn't work for them anymore. So they've been passing the stuff down to us.
How long ago was that? May I ask approximation?
That was last year. I used some tactics. Like I said, just pretty much I wrote some stuff down where you can stand at the bar and ask them, what kind of law that they're using, and it was just it was some good stuff. I think that actually
they got great information. The information is not wrong. It's just that they're not sovereign, so they can't. It doesn't work for them because they're not the sovereign. So with that, when they threw that away for them, they can actually arrest them or whatever for impersonating the sovereign or more. So the way in which they applied it, they don't have the position for as a sovereign because they're not that. So now that Moors are, becoming conscious, it twists though, because the only reason that you have sovereignty is through your nationality, because that never stands alone. So when they come to the test of what their nationality is, and they say they're German, well, guess what? You don't have sovereignty in America because you're not an American. You're not more American. Yeah, you know what I mean? They can go to Germany and do that. But now that Moors are doing it, they know that it's the gig is up. They want to split hairs, because we don't need to say I'm sovereign. We just need to declare our nationality, which says the term Moor, because not only are we saying that we are nationals, but that we are national aboriginal to this land, which means this is our homeland, this is our ancestral estate. And the Constitution was written not for us, but to, in fact, protect us from you guys, you other citizens, molesting us. So it was all right for a minute for Europeans to try that stuff, but now that the real deal has awakened, which is what they've been always wanting to keep from happening, they'll do that. Oh, another sovereign citizen, but we can't and see now here's the, when they say sovereign citizen, they actually, and they know better, but they're actually saying, lumping you or trying to lump us into the sovereign citizen movement and things that the modern Europeans did. And they already know that doesn't go. So if we try to come from the same perspective that they did, it doesn't fly. It won't fly.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
even
it's funny when you shut them down on that argument, like they don't really know what else to do. They say, oh, sovereign citizens, that they quickly try to tag us with artificial citizenship. Because the bottom line is this: sovereign is absolutely not a place to be a citizen of. Like to say, oh, that's a sovereign citizen is so nondescript. You know what I mean? Because it's not a place. It's not a territory to be a citizen of. And with that being said, as soon as they say that, they really, though it might sound good, because they're using that word sovereign, but the context that it's being used in is putting it in the artificial jurisdiction, because it's not a place. Cannot be a sovereign citizen, and again, nationality envelopes all of that, and that being said, whenever they say that, that's libel, because it's trying to ridicule you, because it's no different than saying that's a beautiful citizen, you know what I mean? Because it's an attribute that many nations have. Many nations have beauty, just like many nations have sovereignty because of their nationality. But beauty is not a place to be a sovereign of. It's just a description or expression of something, just like sovereign. You know what I mean? So these are descriptive but not identifying anything. So being as though our law is in fact in law specific, make sure you clarify your citizenship. Being American as distinguished from, sovereign or United States citizen, they're both, all of that is artificial. All of it is, and is documented. There's much references to support that, you cannot be a U.S. or sovereign citizen. And that's brought out because, that word person is used in the 14th Amendment. It does refer to artificial persons or corporations.
Period.
So, you know what I mean? So equivalent with that is sovereign citizen. Sending the discovery and ask, can you produce proof that sovereign is a place to be a citizen of, like Ireland, America, China, France, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Well, we have to do that now because, some people may have gotten away with, doing that before some more. So you won't be getting away with doing it now because they done twisted it into what we're saying, knowing what Ms. is saying is true, and they always try to be one up on Moors and study and see what we're doing and figure out how to come back at it, all for them trying to hold on to the position that they can no longer hold.
Yes, and what happened with him? Like I said, I was in when I was in there with him, in there what they call it, the private guild. I'm listening to the so-called judge and the things, like I said, he was saying. he started having a conversation with the guard and enlightened, and they were, using legalese. And because we've been studying, we knew what they were saying. So, the noble, he sent in a writ of nature of discovery, asking for the delegation of authority. So when he seen that it wasn't going the right way, it wasn't going the right way, period, he asked for the delegation of authority because he had already sent in the writ, but the so-called judge, he wanted to step over it like it wasn't never sent in.
Right.
So the whole thing, when he asked for it, he said, this was the so-called judge. He said, I'm glad that you didn't come, and be loud and obnoxious. Or, he didn't say that, but he was saying it in that way. He was saying, I'm glad that you didn't come in that form because I had someone in front of me and they were, they didn't come the right way, and he said that they had got a contempt of court, and he was doing all this stuff to create this fear, but the noble wasn't fearful, but he didn't have to come outside of his character, he just played the act. Okay.
But you shouldn't, because even Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, speak in an intelligent tone, and I'm glad you brought that up, brother, because there are a lot of Moors that go in belligerent manner, really. And because of that, they bank on it. Matter of fact, it has amped up them trying to get you off your square because that's what they want to do, and then they can slap you with what you just contempt of court.
Absolutely, and that goes to show, too, that's right there, with him even saying that, goes to show that, in the essence, he had a bias in the forefront of his mind. You know what I mean? Because he was already comparing it to another experience. That, you know what I mean? So right there, it's a bias. He was already presuming an expectation that wasn't real. So with that being his thought pattern, you already know he's biased. You need to call that too, because that's interleos, bro. And real quick, from page 948, Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary. Interleos means between other persons, between those who are strangers to a matter in question. All right, that's the 4th edition Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary. So, if they're already basing what you know how they go. Like, they always, these are Moors, or, let's see how they move. And people might be on different degrees, everybody has that uniqueness about their existence, whereas you can't just say, well, because of my experience with Moors, I'm glad you came this type of way. Because, it's good to be acknowledged on your own merit, but at the same time, he was already expecting something based off of another experience. I would call that into question about his impartiality, and that being the case, anything done or with a biased judge is void, regardless of what. Like, you could always call that. You could always call that to question, whether it's a challenge, proper effectum, defectum, whatever it is. Like, they have an obligation to abstain. So, put that on the record, too.
And I'm glad you said that, because we know that it wasn't a court of records. So they were not recording or doing anything. So that's why he was able, excuse me, that's why he was able to say the things he was saying verbally, because there was no records being kept.
But you make the record, make the claim, and see if they rebut it, which they more than likely won't. But that's what I'm saying. It's to that point where, like you said, these are not courts of record. They're not really courts at all, let alone for the record. But you have to create the record. You know what I'm saying? So when he said that, then you say your next writ, you document that. All right? He mentioned, or compared this situation to another experience he had, which calls into question his impartiality. Because check it out. At common law, a public official is disqualified from participating in judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings in which the official has a conflicting interest that may interfere with the impartial performance as a member of the public body. Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education versus Syverston, and Sokolinsky versus Municipal Council of Woodbridge Township, 192, New Jersey. So, that's a universal thing. They have to be impartial, and, if they're not, they can't claim the title of judge, really, So keep that in mind, too. And even though they don't have a record, you make the record for the proper venue. You get what I'm saying? And that's the best you can do. Not the best, but the least you can do, excuse me, is document what happened and then put your claims in, send your claim into the proper venue. Whatever happens after that is after that, but you have to, document those little things that they said that just seems like it doesn't matter. Stuff like that does matter, Yeah,
and what he was, because I had sent the Noble some information, just researching, because I just want to help out as much as I can, and I heard one of the calls that you all were talking where, when I was talking to him earlier today, I said, well, I can give you some things, but I know that you have to study as well, because I'm not looking to out here just studying, to free him and free other people, because I know how to free myself, and I also know that their freedom is tied to my freedom as well. So the judge said trial by provost. So I want to look it up, and it just says the proceedings allowed where the plaintiff in an action desists from prosecuting his suit and does not bring it to trial in converted time. So what he's, I might have read that kind of wrong, because I just looking at the screen is kind of different and talking. What he's looking to do is they told him that if he wanted to appeal it, because we know we want to get it out of that court and get it in a higher, we know they're all fraudulent, but we know that there's steps that you have to go through. And what they told him is that in order for him to appeal it, he has to go and do all the information himself, because they're not going to give him any information. So right now, it's different. Like I said, it's different words that they were using, and like I said, they got the trial by novo, which is a new trial or a retry had in a appealant court. So they were saying these words back and forth. So I'm jotting these words down, like you were saying, taking notes. But
were they trying to imprison him? Were they trying to sentence him to jail time?
It wasn't a sentencing. What he was doing is he just wanted to get the Guardian Lighten off, because she's biased towards the mother, and having that understanding that they all working together. The Guardian Lighten, which I did not know exactly what she was, but now I have an understanding that she's supposed to be a lawyer too, so she was actually acting as her, I almost want to say, power of attorney. It wasn't like she was acting in the what's the word I want to use? She wasn't working for the children. It seemed like she was working more for the mother, because even the Noble's mom came in, and she got on the stand, and she was saying that the Guardian Lighten didn't even come to her home to inspect, and she was kind of, like I said, being biased towards his side of the family, where he haven't seen his kids in almost 4 years.
So the children first and foremost, and that goes back to asylum jurisdiction, really. You got to understand too, and I know my mother, Anna E., can elaborate on this much more, but the condition of the child is a maximum law. It's definitely determined by the mother. So, like, and you got to understand, too, that one of their missions or stratagems is to keep the family divided. Like, that's one of their key stratagems. With that in place, you know, the rest of the malicious plans that they analyzed and put in motion, you know, they can get those off easier, opposed to, you know, if it was a unified family on the same page as far as understanding nationality and things of that nature. You know, because, again, the real thing is whether, you know, them being biased is secondary, but it's expected because at the same time, you know, you have to understand they have absolutely no jurisdiction in all reality. So they be, for the most part, they're in want of jurisdiction, you know, and it can't even be conferred by consent of parties. But now, this is the thing. If there's no objection, I don't know, you know, the details and all the attributes and aspects. But, like, if the mother is consenting or you know, then, bro, that's, like, got a battle either way, you know, because for the most part, you look at the family as a unit, like a trinity, mother, father, child. But the supreme claim of personam jurisdiction is always going to go to the mother regardless, bro. Like, because of, you know, the building of the child's body in the womb 9 months. Like, they're all, like, for the most part, unless, and like you said this before, Mom, either way, you got to, you put yourself in an awkward position because now you got to make one of your own look bad for the sake of, you know what I'm saying, to get what you want or you feel as though you deserve, but it still puts you in a family feud type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's how they divide the family because, truthfully, whatever it takes for us to get there, if we're not able to resolve our own family issues, even if they are moral issues, you know, of somebody's not taking care of their child, as they would say, or child support or whatever, the truth of the matter is that even if we want to consider that as a moral issue, because someone's not assisting the sister with her child, it doesn't belong. It may be an issue, but it doesn't belong in their venues. You know, and the fact that it is and that it has been, they just create more and more and more restrictions, and they're messing up the minds of the sisters. They're definitely messing up the minds of the sons, you know, because they, like I've said this before 1,000 times, some of them have watched their fathers get, you know, arrested for child support or non-payment of child support, you know, on any given Friday they pick them up. And these young sons are saying, well, I'm not going to be like my dad. And what they don't realize is that they're just buying into, not that I'm saying they should be like their dad, but they're buying into that system that these modern Europeans have set up, you know, for them to divide the family. So now when you get a situation where it is, in fact, a father, the husband and wife or whatever, and it's a child involved, and then the father's like, well, you know, I want to get custody of the children. What he would have to do, because see, if she's not conscious and he is, even if he did win his circumstances of they don't have jurisdiction over him where child support is concerned, now he's got to go back to try to get what he wants, which is visitation, and he got to go right back to that same court. Why? Because mother has her children under the wardship. Now, if she's conscious and he is not, they'll use him to destroy her. And this is what they do. And this is how they are breaking up the family. So it's almost like a lose-lose situation to a great degree. We have to start handling our own affairs.
Yes, and that was the other question, you know, because I know I listened to some calls back and forth, and, you know, we're talking about governing ourselves, and it was, because I read so much, it was something talking about, when I think it was one of the papers from the website, and it was talking about us, we're supposed to be, going, when there's a problem between two Moors, we are supposed to go into our own type of council type of thing, and being that they are both Moors, our mother and father, they should be able to work that thing out by themselves, or to go in to seek counsel. I guess, because I think so much, when I would like to see this happening, where we are all like on a like this. It might not happen in my lifetime. I don't know, but I would love to see that where this thing is moving like a well-oiled machine, because you all have said it before. They know that we don't know certain things, and they just using it to their advantage.
Yes. And you know what? It will happen. It will happen. Just keep doing the work, because remember, this is fallen humanity. That's what the mission is about, uplifting fallen humanity. So when we see fallen humanity type things going on, we have to remind ourselves that that's what it is all about. And the work is definitely for the young and the yet unborn, which is, all the children that are still in the wombs of all the young sisters, because the eggs is there when she was born, and this work will help for the next generation, because really we're all nothing but the ancestors' returns anyway. Because that's why it says for posterity, which is forevermore, children's children's children forevermore. And so we have to think that way, and it will happen. And like you said, maybe not in your lifetime, but yes and no, because if you're doing the work, then it's happening in your lifetime, and it will happen. Just think if nobody was doing the work at all, So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the thing, which as you were talking and I'm listening, and you're absolutely right. Because what I do is I practice, talking positive, as much as possible. Don't even want to think negative. It's just like I said. It does make a lot of sense.
Well, definitely. Thank you for adding that on. Calling in on that note. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, the energy was great. I mean, I don't want to cut anybody's wisdom, but it is like 20 minutes left before the live feed ends.
Was wonderful talking with you.
Yeah, really
if you can, I know you were telling me that it was some people in this area. I know I've emailed you before, or I don't know how you all, probably look at the numbers or whatever. But if you can get us in contact with some not dirty Moors, here in
you know what? I'm gonna tell you like this. I don't know exactly about anybody's character, like in that fashion, because it could be your neighbor, there's still Moors. Like I know it's Moors out there, but what I'm saying is the fact that you're out there, there's Moors out there now. You're waking up and you have, friends and family that are waking up. Y'all are out there, so it's really in your hands. And I do know some Moors out there, and I will try to put you in contact. But I'll say that they're relatively new to the information, so I wouldn't judge their character on a high expectation, you know what I mean? Because they're just learning, and they're good people. Don't get me wrong, but, if you define a dirty Moor by somebody who might say the word black, I'm not justifying that, but I'm not speaking on anybody's character. Like, in that fashion. Like, I don't think they would do anything to, like, bring harm or anything of that nature. But, I don't know how you define that, word dirty Moor. But I get what you're saying.
On the aspect.
I'm not saying, like, I'm going to put you in contact with somebody who's going to charge you, thousands of notes to talk with you or talk to you or, try to do any harm to you. But I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't have a high expectation on anybody's character just learning about this. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
I know that's what I was saying. It's powers in numbers. So right now, it's a couple of us, so that I know of, and I know that they're out here. Like I said, I got in contact and actually got the numbers from the sheiks in the temple that I went to. That wasn't a issue. It's just the whole point that I know that there's powers in numbers. So when we are setting up and studying and all that stuff, me personally, I just think that it's strengths in numbers, whereas then we just not by ourselves. That in that aspect.
Right on. So indeed, that's true.
Did you say you emailed MHHS-Eyes Wide Open?
I think I did. It was a while back, but I had emailed Miz about the Shaco bottom, and he sent me some information, and that got my eyes open. Yeah.
Well, what territory? What territory are you near again?
We're in the territory of what it was. I call it the Company of Virginia because that's me researching and realizing that they in the what is it called, downtown?
So-called Richmond.
Richmond. Yeah.
Richmond.
Okay, I got you.
Richmond,
there you go.
Just say so-called Richmond or corporate Richmond or whatever like that. Wow, that's interesting. We have family down there too. There's a couple of brothers that we helped out but I'm not sure whether they were in Virginia Beach area or there. I'll find out, Miz. You have his email, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
All right.
I do.
All right.
I do.
Well, check it out. Keep doing what you're doing now, all right? And remember, the prophet said this. It don't make you feel good, but I hope it makes you feel better. If you are the only one, be the only one.
That sounds like Neil.
Yeah, it does. That's Neil on Matrix. Right. Yep.
Okay.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
All right.
No. Peace, right.
Islam.
All right. Well, it is 12:12, and let's see, where are we? We got caller 310406. Caller 310406.
Islam family. I am Isai, calling from Northwest Amexum. Just had a quick question in regard to Article 3, Section 2, in the second clause, where it says, in all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, and those in which the state shall be a party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. When there is, I guess, when the cause of action has been put together, does one still have to send it into the state court, or just go directly to the Supreme Court when the state is involved? For example, here in California, if a department, near California or in the corporate state of California,
what Article 2 is actually telling you is really that what it's actually telling you is that really if there's a controversy, right, between the state, any controversy with the state, it really isn't supposed to be the original jurisdiction. It's not even supposed to be there, right?
Right.
But now what we're finding out with the fraud, and I think Sister Anna E was bringing it up pretty often lately, is that since we know that, like, for instance, some people say, well, if I don't go to the court, they're going to, put out a fake order or whatever like that. So I'm going to show up special appearance and say, all right, one of the things you would do is, like, this has to be removed, and you stick on that to the proper venue, to the proper venue according to the Constitution. But you don't sit there and wait for them to remove it, because guess what? They're not going to. Because, first of all, they're charged. See, the reason they're not going to remove it to the Supreme Court, well, one of the main reasons is because what they're charging you with is bogus, void, is not a charge in the first place. So that's not ever their intention. Now, what Anna E. was saying, that since we know we're dealing with the criminals, is that take it to the state court, sue them, not take it, sue them to the state court. So, like, for instance, if you wrote a writ to them, or have it on the record, you really should write it because you can't trust the record, so you need to keep the record. And you said to them, listen, this is being removed according to Article 3, Section 2, all controversies regarding the state, original jurisdiction is at the Supreme Court, right? That's your evidence, all right, that you did make that clear, since they're acting like they don't know law. But at the same time, she's saying take it to the state court only because that's the only record that affects them as corporations, because they're really not government. They're corporations. So if you take it to the state court and sue them and put in a lien on them in that fashion, that's where it becomes record. And everybody in the world can see, and then they start losing things and not being insured and all of that, because they don't see anything else, because they're really invalid people in that respect. They're just criminals. They're out in the hot, well-dressed, well-disguised, and they have spent generations teaching the people coming into the schools that they are government, that they are law enforcers. They're not law enforcers. They're actually the true criminals, violating the law, and with arrogance to boot. So when you put it on the state record, that's when it's seen. Because it's not always the state that is the one, it's the county that's after you, not the state, even though they say the state of so-and-so. Well, if you really take it to the bridge, the state will tell you they ain't got jack to do with it. So they're ready.
Yes. And, I've also sent out a writ to the leaders of this department, who are, of course, the governor and two other individuals, one being the commissioner of this department, being California Department of Highway Patrol. So I just sent them a couple of questions, and you may have received them. I'm not asking for you guys to review it without proper compensation, but I do want to send out the document that I am preparing for review along with proper compensation. But I want to speed up the process and not wait for the date that they are going to that they have set, which is a couple of months from now. So the only reason why I was asking is it proper to just go straight to Supreme Court and rather than taking it to the state was just to speed up the process and retrieve what's been seized, what's been unlawfully seized. So I have sent out a demand for the return, and in lieu of some, they asked that if I wanted to get a review on the matter to return the vehicle, to send a request, but I sent them a demand as opposed to a request in lieu of that request, of course. So I wanted to ensure, because that's actually my livelihood. I'm a tradesman, and I kept all my tools within that conveyance or automobile. So
did they steal your automobile?
Yes, they did steal the automobile. They seized it unlawfully without a force.
Yeah. That would be theft. Yeah. I was going to say did they tow it, but it's really theft.
Well, of course, towing means that it be on water. I made it clear in the writ as well that the conveyance was not a boat to be dragged by rope on the water, as stated on the inside of the Henry Campbell's Black's Law, 4th edition. So I'm waiting on their rebuttal. I believe today is the last day. I'll be heading over to my mailbox to see if I have any responses, which I'm sure that I won't. So I'll send them the default judgment, the notice of default judgment, and proceed with.
So they alleging that you did something, and it was a highwayman who accused you, right? And
that's correct.
When he accused you, who did he say was the injured party, him or another corporation?
Well, at this point, there was nothing verbally said. It was only them who made the decision to, I guess, to pull me over.
But listen, you have, like, they kidnapped you. But look, you have an accusatory instrument, right, or a bill of exchange. Like, did they give you a ticket, like, or a bill of exchange, or something?
As a matter of fact, yes, they did. I did get a couple of them. Yes.
All right, and they should have either your free national appellation and a nom de guerre, and they're alleging that is verse who?
The people of the state of California.
The people of the state of California, which is implying that what? Or specifically saying that what? The state is a party, right? That's the
correct.
Accusation. That's the accusation, not the fact. But the accusation is that the accuser is saying that the state is a party, right? So you just read Article 3, Section 2. You know what time it is. Who has original jurisdiction is the Supreme Court. And not to say, definitely put all parties you can on notice. Bring it, like, everywhere. But no, who has original jurisdiction? You know what I mean? Like, that the Supreme Court has that original jurisdiction. Because it's a conflict, like, that's the law of the land. Also, understand this, too. The definition of pendant jurisdiction. Have you ever heard of that before?
My first time.
All right. Definition of pendant jurisdiction in conjunction with the fact they took your law dictionary. I'm going to read this real quick. And this is from the Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 1290. It says pendant jurisdiction is original jurisdiction. All right? Just like the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction, same thing with pendant jurisdiction. So even if you institute it on a state level, remember that this jurisdiction is what's really pending, is at the Supreme Court. So pendant jurisdiction is original jurisdiction resting under federal claim, extends to any non-federal claim against same defendant. Because remember, when you bring your claim, now they're the defendant. You know what I mean? They have to defend against your claim. Okay? Against same defendant if the federal question is substantial and the federal and non-federal claims constitute a single cause of action. Fullerton versus Monongalia connecting. It says such jurisdiction exists even though it is determined that no cause of action is made out under federal grounds. The test is whether substantially the same evidence will prove both the federal and non-federal claims. Wagner versus Worldwide Automobiles Corporation, D.C., New York, 201. And again, that's in the Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary. So you already know, even if you have to institute at state level that dependent jurisdiction or original jurisdiction is the Supreme Court. And that's just the constitutional law of the land. Facts. So Article 3, Section 2 still applies. and even if you and it's good to do that at the state level, because you can show, like, listen, I put their direct superiors on notice as well, and they either failed or achieved to make sure this got to the proper venue, you know? Like, that's the real truth. So keep in mind what you're doing, what's pending, though. You know, what's really pending is the original jurisdiction, which until you get a response, or they say your claim is meritless based on, ground 1.4, whatever it is, until you get a rebuttal, like if you send to them too. You know what I mean? And just always know that the Supreme Court jurisdiction is pending until otherwise stated. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't hear anything back, it's still pending as far as you're concerned. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is, because that's the original jurisdiction.
All right. Well, look, it is 12:26. We got two more callers, but unfortunately, we are going to run out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take one more call. Just let them know that we got like 4 minutes left to the broadcast. Caller 609-356. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation.
Peace. How you doing, family? This is Aljamir Rakab Bay, calling from Nappy King, Nexum. And beautiful show today. I wanted to basically expand on Temple, and real quickly, I've been studying the solstice and equinox degrees, and basically breaking down Temple and how it relates to the solstice and equinox. I'll try to build on it quickly. Basically, Temple, or ironically, Temp L, dealing with the revolution, or 360 degrees, or the absolute connection. Basically, solstice, we know solstice is Latin for sun stands. Moors are the solstice, the walking souls. Equinox, obviously, we know is equal night and day. Moors are the equinox, the nights and the days, or what I like to say, the equal owls, making Moors the noble by birthright. Now, making that in Rotarian, connecting that with Temple, reading a few different dictionaries to see what they got for Temple. They got to take a seat or expanse. Another definition said primary sense of the word is fall, seat time, literally the fall of the head. Now, it's funny because you're talking about solstice and equinox. The fall is obviously Libra, which is autumn equinox, and the head is in medical astrology we know is Aries, which deals with the spring equinox. So you got the equinox right there, and interesting again. We know opposite of Aries is Libra. Medical astrology, Libra deals with the kidney and back. The kidney separates the blood from the urine, which is basically the ins and the outs. Translation, like Mother Rodden Mariah said, truth and falsehood strangely mixed, ironically. And so back to Temple, it said to take a seat or expand on one of the definitions. I was looking at what expanse mean, what they got for expanse. They said an area of something, typically land or sea,